President Trump arriving in London today for the NATO summit, marking NATO's 70th anniversary. President Trump eager to get out in front on foreign policy as the Democrats continue their impeachment inquiry at home. Let's welcome my next guest. He's retired four-star general and Fox News senior strategic analyst. He's General Jack Keane. Great to see you, General.
Yeah, great to see you, Liz.
Your thoughts on NATO?
Well, I think while everyone is emphasizing the differences we have, I really believe we have so much more in common than those differences. Particularly, it's a common understanding that the major threat to NATO is Russia, and clearly NATO is united around that threat, to be sure. And in the last few years, NATO has been strengthened as a result of that. NATO's also increasing their defense budgets. That's something President Trump has championed, to be sure. There were up to 9 countries about now meeting that standard of 2% of GDP goes to defense. That's going to double in the next few years. So those are all good things. I think the president will emphasize the importance of NATO, particularly in view of this recent attack that you just described in the introduction by an ISIS-inspired individual. At least that's what we think it is on the streets of London, and the importance of maintaining vigilance against that threat. And, of course, there are some differences. Turkey is buying Russian missile defense systems. Makes no sense if you're a NATO member doing something like that. And Turkey conducted a military operation in territory that the United States, Britain, and France had under their control with the Syrian Democratic Forces. Also something doesn't make a lot of sense. So, yeah, there are differences, but what they have in common against a common threat is the most significant thing that's keeping them together.
General, your assessment of what's going on, this controversy, should nations of origin take back in their own terrorist nationals? Because now France and other nations in Europe want Iraq to prosecute and detain thousands of ISIS terrorists, but Iraq has its own problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ludicrous to expect the Iraqis to take this because they happen to be in the area. The reality, Iraqis and Syrians make up close to 20,000 ISIS detainees. 2,000 are Europeans that are in Syria. And certainly, as you noted, Iraq has challenges and therefore shouldn't be sort of farmed out detention center for the Europeans. You know, the problem with the Europeans is the government leaders don't trust their own judicial system. And they're afraid that their judicial system will be lenient on these people, and they may, in fact, commit another attack in their homeland is the issue. And given what took place in England with someone who was let out only serving half of their sentence and obviously was not tracking him is something they should be doing. That's part of the problem here. So it's a political issue, I think, for these leaders. I think they're dead wrong in not bringing back those citizen fighters, because if they're let loose, they're going to get them back anyway, but they're going to come back armed. And that is going to be a tragedy.
General, switching gears quickly, China suspending visits by U.S. Navy ships and aircraft to Hong Kong after the president signed pro-democracy legislation backing the Hong Kong protesters. Beijing is also announcing sanctions against a number of U.S. human rights groups, meaning Human Rights Watch, Freedom House. I want to turn to this quickly because now what's happening is China is now partnering with Russia on a $55 billion pipeline bringing Russian energy and fuel into China. I mean, General, your assessment of this, the U.S. is now, for the first time in 70 years, we haven't seen this before, a net exporter of oil due to fracking. Your take on what's going on with China and Russia there?
Well, certainly the fact that they're getting closer together economically and militarily is got to be of concern to the world. Russia, while it doesn't have the economic engine that China has, it does have a significant capability and in terms of military capacity, and China is the fastest growing military organization in the world, and at some point will largely catch the United States in that endeavor too. So that's got to give us concern. I mean, there are authoritarian regimes for sure in China, democracy in name only in Russia in terms of where Putin has taken that country. So yes, that is a foreign policy and national security concern for us. and our allies. What's taking place in Hong Kong, American flags flying, national anthem being played, Congress acting president approving legislation backing the Hong Kongers, that is very significant. Listen, the thing that the Chinese Communist Party, who run mainland China, fear more than any country, more than any military power or economic power, is their own people. And what is on display in Hong Kong is a visible demonstration of what concerns them. They want to keep that contained in Hong Kong, and they do not want that coming to mainland China. Their Achilles heel in the CCP is, in fact, their authoritarian and repressive control of their own people, because it could implode someday on them.
Wow, what a story. General Jack Keane, thank you for your insights and for your service to our country. Great to see you. Come back soon.
Yeah, good seeing you. Have a great week.